been like, and having these kind of games nationally on Thursday night?
Yeah, Matt, really important for us. We need this kind of exposure. This is going to be a good game. Two good teams are still finding themselves, but they play competitively against really good teams. But these are really important games for us. ESPN Thursday and Friday. Friday's a big signature night for us as well. We got a national TV audience, beautiful new stadium, beautiful night. It means a lot, man. For us, you can't really overstate how important it is. Because we're building this league. It's going to take some time, but we're going to get there.
Well, what's the importance of being here in Houston with the new stadium? What's the importance of adding the new stadium to the school, to the conference, having a new stadium?
Well, I think it means that we're really on the move. You know, a lot of credit to Renuka, to our Mac Rhodes for their vision for Houston. The athletic program here. UCF built a new stadium several years ago. Cincinnati's renovating Nippert. That'll be virtually brand new. The brand new stadium at Tulane I was at several weeks ago. Beautiful place. We've got others on the drawing board. This is really important for us because this is, I've said it before, this is a work in progress. This conference has a real future. There's no question in my mind. And I see the improvement this year in the non-conference games, how competitive all our teams have been, not just our top teams. If you look at a USF, who goes up to Wisconsin and played extremely competitive, and really had a chance to be in that game. And the same thing with Maryland on a block punter, they could have won that game. And then you look at some of our other teams, and with facilities like this, it means a lot to fans, it means a lot to owners and supporters, it means a lot to the students, it means a lot to recruiting. So it's a huge part of what we're trying to accomplish, and we're just trying to show people too that not only can we play competitively, but we now have the facilities. We're going to do full cost of attendance. And you saw the stuff that came out yesterday. None of it surprised anyone. But some of these things you can already do, and our conference is going to try to do as many of those things as possible. But we've already committed to do full cost of attendance.
Like I was going to just with some of the things moving forward with the Power Fives and the autonomy. What does that do for the conference in terms of, you just mentioned some of the things you're already going to do, but has there been any more dialogue on either some of the other stuff or to kind of do what they're doing, or is there any movement on any of that other stuff?
No, we've talked about other things, and we haven't decided yet. We have our board meeting in November, and we'll probably decide to let schools do certain things individually. We've all committed as a conference to the cost of attendance. That's important. And that's something, it's the right thing to do, and it's fundamental. But in terms of all the other kinds of things, whether it's four-year scholarships, whether it's certain kinds of longer-term continuing educational benefits, whether it's, and most of our schools offer excellent medical insurance and other kinds of programs. I'm not sure there's a lot in nutrition. There's a lot they're going to have to do that isn't already being done. But on some of those other things, we'll leave it to individuals. But as you saw, the list was very short they put out initially. And there'll be some issues about time demands for student athletes, and that's something we're looking at too. We've spent a lot of time on health and safety. It's a real priority, obviously. We all know some of the issues are there. And I think also there's a feeling about personnel that wasn't, as you know, in their list initially. So I don't know what's going to happen on personnel, and I think everybody wants to be a little wary about how to attack.
You've got some new additions to the league this year. How crucial is it to have a school like East Carolina come out and have a strong showing against, you talked about some of the Power 5 schools?
Yeah, it meant a lot, Matt, because you saw the attention. The one thing I think we've done well, we position the conference so that when we do something good or we do something important, it gets noticed. You know, UCF beat Georgia several years ago in the league, but nobody paid much attention. We get the TV exposure. Our teams are on TV every week now. We have ESPN behind us, we have CBS Sports Network. When our teams do something, and we've got you and we've got the country watching to see, can they be the 6? Can they be 5+1? Can they be the 6 power conference? They won 2 national championships. They won the Fiesta Bowl. Now, I don't know if it's going to be ECU, whether it's going to be UCF, whether it's going to be Cincinnati, whether it's going to be UCF. We've got some really good teams, and you see the improvement of Memphis. Now, they haven't won those 2 games, but boy, they played competitively against 2 of the best teams in the country, and both on the road. That's the other thing. We play 50% more of our games on the road against those teams. The combined record, I don't know if you guys know this, but the combined record of the teams we've played so far in those 5 conferences, and I hate to use Power 5 if we're not in that conversation, because I'd rather use the group of 5, which is how they're terming themselves these days. But in any event, 73-18. We're not playing just those teams in those conferences. We're playing the best teams in those conferences. Cincinnati went up and played Ohio State, and count BYU, Houston going up to Provo and playing BYU. These are really, really tough games, but that's how we build a conference. That's how we build a brand. And our schools are far more competitive than they were even last year.
Thursday night.
Is that something where you look at moving forward, you want schools to play those type of games? Houston just announced the Oklahoma series where you continue to expand the brand and have the opportunity, like you said, to come out and have a good showing?
Yeah, Joseph. I mean, UCF's playing Stanford next year. USF is working on a Syracuse series. I think it's pretty much finished.
Yeah.
I think they may have announced it already. We've got some other. Cincinnati is working on a series with UCLA. We mentioned Houston with Oklahoma, the Kickoff Classic in a few years. That'll be pretty exciting for them. It's a program that is on the rise. We're looking at other games that people are going to play. Navy plays a really good schedule when they come into the league. It's critical. Now, I don't think we want to kill ourselves. I think we want to be reasonable about this. I mean, SMU's schedule this year, look who they had to play. I mean, you had to play Baylor on the road, you had to play A&M at home, you had to play TCU at home, and North Texas on the road is not an easy game. Those are 4 really tough games. Now, again, I don't know down the road whether everybody's going to play that many, but I think we can make our point by playing some good ones each year. And it's really important also to our TV partner, because if we can get these games back in our places, that increases our TV value. But I would make the point that if we set these games up, whether at home or on the road, it increases the value of our TV partner. Because would you rather have USF playing up in a competitive game at Wisconsin, or would you have a team that maybe doesn't have the kind of fan interest that a big-time game like that would have? And you know that UCF and USF and Houston are going to be really good teams in this league, as well as Cincinnati, as well as Memphis, as well as Temple. Another vastly improved team, Temple, very good team, not just off the field. So I think that's really important that we continue to do it. We have to do it. And also, that's how you measure yourself. We're going to be judged that way. And if we're going to have a shot at the postseason, whether it's the host bowl or whether it's an actual playoff, if we have an undefeated team or a one-loss team, they're going to look at our conference schedule, but they're also going to look really closely at the non-conference teams we play, and we know that. And you mentioned ECU, Matt. I mean, it's obviously having them come in and play as well as they did, beating Virginia Tech after they had beaten Ohio State, beating North Carolina the way they did. That was a statement game for them, and coming very close against Carolina, 7-point game until the last drive. And they missed some chances early, and that was on the road too. That's a great. But I knew that ECU, just like Houston and UCF, those programs have always been there, but they just didn't get the exposure before. This conference is going to give everyone a chance. We have to seize it, and whether we will, it remains to be seen. But we've got the chance.
It's all a process. Is it a slow process, or is it moving in a quick enough fashion to where even the schools are non-patient, but they are patient?
I think we're moving along pretty quickly. I mean, I think you may have seen our campaign recently, The Power, and that's how we're branding ourselves. We're taking out ads in USA Today and other major other publications. We're doing everything we can to. I'm out every week at a game, and I try to talk to the media, at the local media, and also national media as much as I can, just to get our brand out there. I think that we've made enormous progress in a very short period of time. Look at basketball. We won 2 national championships. We finished as a finalist in the NIT, and we've got a really good basketball conference. I don't think there's any question about that. And football, I've always said we were more a work in progress. Basketball, we had teams that won national championships that had been in the Final Four, that had been in the Elite Eight. That was an instant credibility situation. With football, we've had a lot of teams with good history, but we haven't been quite at the level, and we're getting it. You can see it. I can see the progress already. And I think when you think about it, it's a 2-year-old league. In the sense of the new league, we're the core group that was the old Big East. But if you look at where we are, we've made enormous progress in a short period of time. And again, winning is going to cure a lot of things too. That's going to be the key.
Has there been any discussion on working on a new television deal to try to get with all this good vibe, with East Carolina, a lot of good showings? I mean, is there talk about maybe reworking the television?
Yeah, I have to be careful, but I have had some talks with ESPN and some good ones, and ESPN recognizes, as we do, that we're not the conference that made the deal a year and a half ago. Let's be honest, that we were in a state of turmoil. We weren't sure what was going to happen. Nobody really knew what we had. I thought we had good schools here in this conference, and I thought we'd be pretty good. And I thought putting them together would actually, frankly, make a big difference, because they had never played with a group this competitive with that kind of spotlight, getting the TV that we have. Exposure is fine. It's not an issue for us. It's the revenue, and I think we've proven to ESPN how valuable we can be, and we've done things on our own to increase that value by playing Thursday, by playing Friday, by playing an occasional Wednesday, by being really flexible, and by seeking out good non-conference games. ESPN does really appreciate those. They would rather see these games than other kinds of games you can set up. And so I think we'll sit down with them. We'll see. We have a very short-term deal, so maybe there's some way we can, we can extend out. But we don't know. We don't know what will happen. But we're going to certainly make the effort because, anytime you have a situation like this and you really realize it's not the same group you negotiated with a year ago, everybody wants to see if we can't figure something out.
You spoke about. I'm sorry. You spoke about the postseason, the Miami Bowl. Has there been any discussion? I mean, they're moving forward on that. I mean, I don't. Is there a date set up? I mean, I know there's been some discussion about it.
Yeah, Matt. It's all set for December 22nd. We have a
Okay.
deal in place with ESPN. It'll be televised by ESPN. 2 o'clock, I believe, on December 22nd, which is a Monday. We are pretty excited about it because BYU, if BYU doesn't end up playing the New Year's game, they are already committed to that bowl game. And we'll send one of our good teams down there to play. The stadium's beautiful, Marlin Stadium. It'll hold about 30 to 35,000 people. Tickets went on sale yesterday. I expect a pretty brisk ticket sale, especially with BYU possibly in the game. I think it'll be pretty brisk. So no, we're really excited about that game, and it's moving along well. We have Executive Director Carlos Padilla who's working very hard. Carlos was the second in command at the St. Petersburg game that ESPN has run for years. So he was a pro. We brought him in. He knew exactly what to do. Our hotels are all set. It's going to be a fun trip for the schools, and it's a conference-owned game, so it can't be taken away from us down the road. And we'll build it. The Marlins have been great. It's a great facility. So yeah, that's moving along well. We've got other bowls too, of course.
Yeah, the BYU. So if BYU does somehow run the table, goes undefeated, and maybe gets into discussion of the playoff or the 12, part of the 12 teams, for the Access Bowls, does that mean then they can? They're not. I know they're committed already to the Miami Bowl, but does that?
Well, they have the one out is
The one
they
out is
played,
they-
and then we have that out for our own teams too. Everybody has an out if you end up in the
Just wanna make
playoff
sure,
or the
just
host bowl. Yeah, and in fact, if that happened, then we'd obviously have a Conference USA would potentially come down and play in that game. They were originally slated to do it. Our agreement in place allows us to go find a team from one of the group of 5 conferences and also BYU. But if not, we certainly can find a good team. As you know, there'll be some very good bowl teams that want to come to Miami. I mean, one of the reasons we wanted to do it in Miami is a great destination, it's a great locale. Before Christmas, which is good for the bowl and good for the community. Orange Bowl doesn't see it as competition. Eric Baum, who's the executive director of his group, they've cooperated with us all the way. They're happy to have it. It doesn't threaten the Orange Bowl at all. They're thrilled about it.
This is basketball related, but across the street here, they just announced they're going to build a practice facility. A lot of the conference schools have that already, but maybe even bigger news, they hired Kelvin Sampson back in February. To have a name like that in the conference, along with some of your other well-established coaches, what do you think that does? Specifically, I guess, for Houston, but also from a conference standpoint, to have him back in the game after being in the NBA.
Yeah, it means a lot, Joseph, because I think it tells you that a coach like that doesn't come to a conference unless he thinks that conference is a national player. I think we proved it already, winning national championships, having 5 teams last year in the top 25. And the practice facility is very important. As you know, in basketball, that's a real selling point for recruits, having a really good practice facility. And Hoffheinz is going to undergo some renovation too. And down the road, that's another project that I'm sure Mac will be attacking. It means a lot. But Media Day is coming up. Basketball Media Day is coming up in about 3 weeks, and we're going to have it in New York this year. And I'll be sitting in front of, or standing in front of, the media and friends and supporters. But behind me are going to be the coaches. And think about who's going to be sitting there. I mean, Larry Brown, right? Kevin Ollie, both have won national championships. Mick Cronin, Josh Pastner, now Kelvin Sampson, right? Frank Hay going to Tulsa, big time guy, and a program that's had a great history, right? And then obviously you have Donnie Jones, and you've got Orlando Antigua, who everybody expects great things from at USF, and Jeff Levo, a fine young coach, Ed Conroy at Tulane. They've recruited well by virtue of being in our conference. Not to mention Fran Duncan, he's our dean of the staff in many respects. He's a terrific coach. So you think about the I think I've mentioned them all, but this is a really good basketball league with a lot of good coaches, which made it smart right away. And I thought we would, to be honest, if you look at the teams in the conference. Now, we lose Louisville, but I think we pick up a Tulsa team now that's poised, all young players. Frank there now. We also pick up, I think, renewed energy with UCF and USF and Tulsa, Tulane, East Carolina, Tulane, which really want to compete. I've been to those places. Tulane renovated Devlin Arena right on campus. Beautiful old place, a lot of history, like a mini Cameron. And then you look at East Carolina, they got a nice facility. They have a nice facility. So I think everything's in place for basketball. And Houston needed to do some work on facilities, and they're doing it. But again, as I said earlier, Renew and Mac have a vision, and they want to be relevant nationally. They want to be good. And I think that's true of all of our schools. One of the commissioners, I won't name him, in that so-called group of five, and you notice I'm calling them the group of five. And they called themselves that yesterday. We had a conference call on some things, and it may have been 2 days ago, but in any event, this commissioner said to me, he said, you have the advantage, he said, of really having a group of schools that all want to get there. Everyone is pulling in the same direction, same trajectory. They all want to be nationally relevant. They all want to play at the highest level. And they're all together now, and they know what they're going to have to do just to play within the conference, let alone the non-conference schedule that we have taken on. And I've encouraged the commissioner to do it. I'm a fiercely competitive person, but I'm also, I understand where we are. I understand what we have to do. Everybody knows what's ahead of us, but I'm convinced we're going to get there. I'm absolutely convinced. I see it everywhere, whether it's a beautiful new stadium like this, whether it's the challenges our guys are willing to take on, whether it's the commitments our president and our ADs have made. So I'm optimistic. I really am.
Does it make it easier for being a commissioner that you don't have to have a conversation or conference on a month-to-month basis, and schools understand that there's a place we need to get some things done and to get recognized? We just can't just stand on the name, the brand, the American Athletic Conference.
Yeah, no, they know they're building the brand, and the American Athletic Conference, I think, is I view it as a concept as well as a conference. In other words, the concept was if you bring these schools together, they are going to get further than they were, and they're all good schools with a lot of potential, and together they're all going to make each other better. And I don't think there's any question all of them are better off in this conference than having splintered off 2 years ago when things obviously looked bleak. And people said, well, we had some schools leave, but look at what we still had left. And we added some excellent schools. And they're going to be very competitive right away. And they made certain commitments about facilities and other things, and they followed up on them. I think the issue, too, for us is we want to help them, too. We want to help all the schools. I think our job is to promote the conference, but to do it in a responsible, reasonable way. We're not going to say things that aren't true, but we're going to say, look, we do have the toughest non-conference football schedule in the country, and that's 73-18 in the schools we play. I mean, you look at East Carolina, at South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia Tech. You look at what USF has done. You look at Tulane, Georgia Tech, Rutgers, Duke, 2 of those games away. Memphis at UCLA, at Ole Miss, top 10 team. Both of them probably are. We've done what we said we would do. So the question now becomes, we'll have to make sure we're good stewards. We'll have to make sure we run the conference well. We're going to have to make sure that we continue to, do what we can for our players and help our teams any way they can be helped. And I think everybody here they're the ones doing it. And as I said last year, we had an incredible first year. I mean, I think it's still a story that I don't think really. I don't know if it's appreciated. It's the first year these schools were together, and we win 2 national championships, finalists in the NIT, win the women's NIT, have a team in the College World Series, and win the Fiesta Bowl in convincing fashion against the Big 12 champion, which last year might have been in a playoff had there been one. So, that's a pretty good first year. I'm really proud of them, but I said to you and others, I didn't play the games. They did. I just felt they were good enough, and I felt that we set the stage and got the word out that when they did something like that, they would get attention. And when UCF went to Ireland, that was a great event for ESPN, one of the biggest ratings they'll get on a Saturday morning on ESPN2 ever. And that was a heartbreaker for UCF. They could easily have won that game, thought they were going to win it at the end. But that's what we need to do.
Mike, through all of this, everything that's gone on the last year and a half, have you received any interest from other schools who are interested in possibly joining the American? I mean, seeing what you guys have been able to do, maybe possibly saying, how can we be a part of that?
Absolutely, Matt. And we're not in of a mind to expand at this point. There are a couple of schools, you all know who they are, that might, frankly, add real value to the conference or a good cultural fit. The other thing we like to talk about in this conference is academically and culturally, it's a great conference. You look at, you have small private schools of high quality like SMU and Tulane and Tulsa. These are top 40 universities in the country. Naval Academy, which is sort of in that group. And you have important state schools like USF and UCF and Cincinnati and Houston that are really important to the communities. Temple has 2 Nobel Prize winners on their medical faculty. You know, these are great academic schools, and I think we've got to, you know, again, in the long term, I think that we will, you know, do the kinds of things we need to do to give ourselves, you know, the impetus we need in all areas, not just.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. It was good seeing.